Previously on the Leaky Bucket podcast.
Over that period of time, as I got more responsibility, as things went on, it started to dawn on me what a toxic and stressful industry this was that I was in, actually. And a lot of the time you'd be working on multi-million pound building projects with a very tight deadline. It was like being in a pressure cooker. But the more senior I got as well, I was exposed to a real dark side of kind of like corporate life as well. There were a lot of bullies. There were a lot of people that would very easily throw you under the bus at a second's notice to protect themselves and done absolutely nothing wrong. There were a lot of gossip, and it was just really like a horrible, toxic pressure cooker environment with a lot of very nasty people in it.
Hi there, and welcome to the Leaky Bucket podcast. I'm your host, Ian Morgan, and this is the financial performance podcast for entrepreneurs looking to get a better understanding of their numbers, to plug the leaks in their business, and to move from surviving to thriving. Hey there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Leaky Bucket podcast. Today, we've got with us Adam Smith. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So, Adam, first things first, what, in your opinion, are you most well known for?
I would probably say general mindset coaching and being alcohol free. It's things that I'm very passionate about and talk about quite a lot, especially on platforms like LinkedIn and other social media platforms too.
Okay. What do people misjudge about you the most?
Interesting question that. I think probably that I've got it all figured out, just because when we go to do corporate trainings and stuff, like I like to go to the gym and all that kind of stuff, and they might just see someone that looks healthy and they might just go, oh, well, he's got no issues. And it's unfortunately we fall into that bracket of white men in the UK that don't have any problems or challenges, and because I teach mindset and things like that, that surely I don't experience problems, which just is simply not true. I've got my own mindset coach for that exact reason. So yeah, I'd probably say that I don't experience any hardships myself, I think.
Oh, interesting. We'll come back into that.
Mm-hmm.
What for you are the three most important values that you live by?
Authenticity, because for so long I didn't live with authenticity. I put on a mask for probably I'm 34 now, probably about 32 years of my life. I didn't live an authentic life, and I knew how much pain it caused me not doing so. So I'm doing everything that I can now to do that, so I don't give off like a false exterior, and that people can really get to know what I'm about. Fun. I like to have fun. I like to have a good laugh, and life's too serious. But life is also very short. I know it's the longest thing that we'll ever do, but at the same time, we're here for a shockingly short amount of time. So I want to make sure that I have fun. And then another value, I'd say be open-minded. I'm always willing to learn something new. So I do value that quite a lot, because again, for such a long period of my life, outward facing at least, I put on this front that I knew it all and that I had answers to everything. Whereas now I'm extremely adaptable and always like to learn and like to improve. So I'd say that's a very key component for anybody, and it's massively helped my life just to be a bit more open-minded about things and seeing it from other people's perspective.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I like that. Adam, would you rather win with no issues or fall short and learn something new?
Always the latter, because everyone wants to win. Of course, it's nice to have the wins, But if it means long term that I'm going to take more of a hit, you know, then obviously no one wants to get into business to think they're going to fail. But if I can have these little lessons along the way, then I know long term I'm eventually going to see success, whatever the success looks like. So everyone's obviously different, but yeah, if you're never really learning that much about your team. I use a lot of analogies when I do things, and I love football. So if my team was just winning 7-0 every week, I'm not really learning anything other than my formula works, and that's okay. But how can we grow might be from that 1-1 draw that you have. And these are the mistakes that we made. And these were masking a bigger problem, actually, for a long period of time. Because now that one team has seen that you've drawn 1-1, they now know how to get you to 1-1. So, because they're just going to copy the tactics. So you have to reinvent yourself. You have to reinvent your tactics. But you shouldn't have to just, you know, cruise everything and think that you've got it all figured out. Because we did that with our business when we first started. We had to monetize it quickly. And we charged such a low rate that we were knocking over clients left and right, thinking, oh my God, this is too easy. This is amazing. And then our business coach said, you're kidding yourself. You're not charging enough money, because now you haven't got enough time to actually execute on the higher ticket paying clients, because you're working with too many low ticket and you're giving too much of you while doing so. So yeah, I think that we've learned a lot of harsh lessons over the years by just air quote cruising, and then bang, you do get hit, as every business does with a challenge, and you don't really know how to handle it. So I'd far rather have the small little inconveniences that help you grow long term, for sure.
Yeah. Adam, you touched briefly there on success means different things to different people. What does success look like for you?
Again, great question. And to be honest, I'm still trying to figure it out, because it shifts quite frequently. You know, I don't have children. I'm sure that when I'm looking to, you know, start my own family in the next couple of years, so I'm sure that once that happens, or if it happens, then the success might move again. But because I think that's the thing as well, so many people say, I know I'm successful when this will happen. And if it doesn't happen, then you're always going to think you're a failure. So you have to be very mindful over the story and the language that you do attach to future outcomes, because ultimately no one really knows. What success looks like to me right now is living life on my own terms. And that's it. As simple as that. Because for, again, 32 years, well, not 32 years was I employed, but for 16 years of my life, I was employed and told when to turn up, when to take my breaks, what I could wear, blah, blah, blah. And obviously everybody is answerable to someone. Like, I'm answerable to my clients, of course, because otherwise I'd have no business. But it's not that they would dictate when I do work and when I do certain things. So living life on my own terms, I think, is the biggest level of success for me.
So interestingly, right, for you, is success more like it's in the moment and it's the journey, as opposed to a set destination that you're going to reach?
Yeah, because I think that destination shifts so frequently. And this is all through trial and error, by the way, because I've lived that life and it's really painful. And, you know, in the last couple of years, I've lost a lot of weight, for example. If I kept saying, when I weigh this, then I'll be this, and then you don't weigh it, and then you look your best ever, you're always going to associate that, well, I'm only happy when I do that because that's what I said. So you have to be, you know, malleable in that sense to go, it might not always be that way. So all we have is today. Yes, you can future plan, of course, because otherwise nothing would ever get done. But live in the moment, absolutely, where you can, because there's a lot of cliches here, but there's so little that I can actually control about anything. You know, whether it's consultation calls coming up or sales calls, whatever. I can't dictate how that's going to go. I can have an influence on it, but I'm not in control of the outcome as to whether someone buys or not. So all I can do is prepare myself accordingly and then adapt. What did I learn if I don't land it? Equally, what did I learn if I do land it? Did I talk too much still? But it just so happened that this person liked that. Maybe, don't know, but you can't live too far ahead of yourself, I don't think, in business, because there's only one thing around the corner that could change your whole model. You know, if you look at like singers, actors, whatever, in 2019, and then boom, COVID hits. I was in hospitality at the time, and that's what led me to start my own business now with the pandemic, because that whole thing shifted, and they certainly weren't planning for that. So, but you've just got to pivot, because otherwise you're going to get left behind. So yeah, I would say that planning is important, but I would also say, yeah, just try living today as much as you can. That's all we do have. And I know that sounds really corny, but it's true.
Yep. And Adam, give me a feel for like your early life. What happened to take you on this journey to becoming a mindset coach?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I've got dyspraxia and I've got ADHD, and none of these were diagnosed until I was about 15 or 16. So dyspraxia, for people that don't know, it's not like spelling and reading and writing necessarily like dyslexia is. However, it is more like fine motor skills, attention, ability to focus, things like that. So when you're writing down from the blackboard, because, you know, again, younger listeners, they did exist, but it was on the blackboard, for example, the teacher would write it down. You'd have to look down at your paper, look up at the board. But when I look back up at the board, I was like, where am I? Oh, there we go. And then I'd write down again, and I'd look up and go, like this. And it was a huge problem, obviously, because the fine motor skills as well meant I couldn't write as well unless I really took my time. So when you combine that with looking up and looking down, looking up, looking down, and then it gets rubbed off for the next bit, I've missed half of what they've just said. And the half that I have written down, I can't read it because the writing's so bad. So this was extremely challenging, of course. And at the time anyway, I know that education has moved on quite a lot, but at the time, there wasn't support teachers, there wasn't anything like that. It was, you know, unless you were like severely in the learning difficulties bracket, but no one really knew anyway that I did. They just thought I was disruptive and loud and noisy. And I was, but I'd get so bored of trying to keep up. Then I'd get angry because I can't keep up. So then I'd project that around the classroom, and I would just try and make people laugh. But what I did notice was, because I wasn't looking at my books anymore, I was just looking around the room and looking at people. I'd look at like what a kid would say, then what the teacher would do. Then I'd see how the kid reacted to what the teacher said. And then I'd just be fascinated by this back and forth exchange. So when she said that, he did that. And that made him feel this. So I almost developed this like curiosity around human behavior from a very young age, because I just wanted to understand, well, why does she keep saying that to him? Because he keeps getting really upset. And this was at like the age of 8 or 9. So this continued, that the teachers would always say, I'm great with people, got potential, you know, the old adage, he's got potential, but he's not using it, and all that crap that we used to hear, which is polite for saying he's a nuisance and he's annoying me, or he's loud or whatever. But then you go through school, and it was obviously a lot more challenging as the days went on. So I did well at football, but I had to really play a lot of football to get good at it, because people with dyspraxia aren't typically good at sport, because again, of the fine motor skill element. And people that are severely dyspraxic can almost be on like the spectrum in terms of not being able to perform certain things at all. Like they're not, you know, they can't even function when it's a severe case. So that's where it is different again to dyslexia. So I just knew there was something that wasn't right, because I didn't want to go to school. I didn't enjoy school. I hated it. I hated just being sat down and restricted and someone talking at you. I didn't like that anyway. I much preferred being outside and, you know, having a laugh and whatever, like probably most kids did, to be honest. But I just couldn't focus for love nor money at school. It was really difficult. But I love building relationships, and I was very social, but I also love being in my own space. I liked the high energy and then remove it all and be on my own. I've always been like that, and I like that. So I knew I wasn't going to get any qualifications really. My dad has got his own plumbing and heating business, very successful in his own right. And I always just said from like the age of 14, 15, I'm just going to do my dad's business. So I just outwardly tried not to do anything at school. I'd, you know, My mum would drop me at the gates, and sometimes I'd just skive off and not go to class and things like that, which obviously was causing her a problem. My mum, God love her, would defend me till the cows come home because I could do no wrong, which created this false sense of importance, though, which I later experienced in my first job. Well, what do you mean? You can't talk to me like that. And I'm like, well, actually, I can just sack you, and then mum can't do anything about it. So it's just quite difficult as well. I worked for my dad for a year, hated every second of it, and just said to him one day, I was like, I need to leave. I can't do this anymore. And he said, okay, we understand. Got a job in a bar almost by accident because I thought I was applying for a retail shop, but it actually turned out to be a bar. Had a similar name to a different retail shop that I'd recognised previously. And yeah, I ended up working hospitality, and that was almost like my calling for a long time. You know, late nights, busy, loud, loads of people, loads of different people. I loved it and did it for 14 years. And then I loved coaching people and managing them as well. I've managed thousands of people over the years in very large teams in corporate companies, and I loved developing new talent and loved seeing where people were and how they could change their behavior to get a new result. And this, led me to wanting to pivot when the lockdown happened, and I thought something needs to change. So I'd done personal training before in my early 20s, didn't really like it. I thought, do I want to go back to that? I've done my own body transformation. Do I want to help other people do the same? Do I want to do football coaching? I didn't know, but I'd studied people like Tony Robbins incessantly since I was about 18. So when most people would be listening to the Arctic Monkeys or whatever at my age while playing PlayStation, I'd be listening to Tony Robbins YouTube videos and stuff like that. So I was just fascinated by the human mind and why we do what we do. And then it was actually an advert for a Tony Robbins course. I did it. It's called the Knowledge Broker Blueprint. It was how to set up your own online business, and you could attach it to any niche that you wanted. And because it was lockdown, it typically took around 9 months to do it, but I did it in about 3.5 because I was just doing 15-hour days. I had nothing else to do. So I did that. And then off the back of that, set up my own coaching business, did that for 6 months, and then partnered up with two guys that were also called Adam. So there was 3 of us called Adam, 3 different skill sets, me as a mindset coach, one as a PT, one as a nutritionist, because they were actually clients of mine trying to launch their own coaching business. And I really missed being part of a team. So I just said to them, do you want to work together here? And I'm like, yeah, straight away. So that was an easy sell. Started in January 2021. Had a really good first year. And then we bought Adam H out about 2 months ago because he's looking to go into different projects, and he was the physio PT element. And now it's just me and my business partner, Adam Mayhew, who's a nutritionist, and me as the mindset coach. And that's how I got here today. So, yeah.
And do you think those early days of you not being able to focus, if you like, in class in terms of the work that was going on, do you think that's what made you that almost like hyper aware then, I suppose, of mindset? Because most people at that age aren't aware of the relationships that are going on within a classroom or within any settings. Do you think that's what triggered it?
Yeah, I think it's almost painfully aware. I could see if I said something, I could almost read how someone responded to it instantly. Then I'd have 5 different things going on in my head. Oh no, should I have said that? Why did you say that? You've hurt them. Or are they finding it funny? Or maybe I'll say it again, even though it's hurting a third party person over here because I'm taking the piss out of them. And you just start, and then you feel guilty for taking the piss, even though you've got the laugh from this person in front. But if I stop doing that, well, this person that I've made laugh stop. And it's just this, the way I describe my mind a lot of the times, even to the present day, and I'm doing everything in my power to change it as much as I can, it's like a snow globe that you shake. And it's just chaos, and it's just so much going on in my mind at all times. And not because I want it to be. I so don't want it to be that. I want to have this stillness, this almost like, I just want to associate the word pleasant to my mindset. And a lot of the time it's just not. It is this chaos. But the chaos also breeds a lot of success, but it also brings me a lot of pain at the same time. So I think that, yeah, that hyper awareness is a skill, but it's also very challenging to deal with day to day.
So interesting, right? I think the dyspraxia side of things, that's actually, no, I think both of them interacting with each other, because it's quite an interesting sort of interaction, the dyspraxia and the ADHD, yeah? My first view, actually, when I heard it was like, oh, okay, that seems like a challenge. But actually, as you described it, I was like, Adam, this is like your major skill. This is what you bring to the world, your independent view. How do you view it? Do you view it as a strength? Do you view it as a weakness? Yeah, what's your view?
It is a love-hate relationship. You know, there's this sound clip that's on a reel, and it's like, you know, my life is like my computer. There's 37 tabs open. There's this and that, and where's that random sound coming from? You know, it does feel a little bit like that sometimes. I know that the business wouldn't be where it is today without my approach to things. I will say things out of the blue to my business partner who'll go, how on earth did you remember that? But at the same time, there will be moments where I am sat with my partner on an evening and I've finished work, if that's ever really a thing, and I'm just sat there and my fingers just doing this, like, or my foot's just tapping, or I'm just, you know, almost like fidgeting a little bit and focusing on something. So I'm not really truly present. I am in the physical sense, of course, but mentally I'm checked out. Just last night we were watching The Walk-In on ITV with I can't remember his name now, but anyway, we're watching that, and I just said, "What did he just say?" So, what do you mean? Like, I was fully staring at the screen, but I didn't take in any of the information. And this happens quite frequently. I'll be listening to an audiobook in the car, and I'll just be like, "What was the last 5 minutes of that book? I've not a Scooby-Doo. What he just said." So, yeah, I think that there's a great book called Loving What Is, which is just accepting all of who you are. And I know this is just part of who I am, and that's okay. And embracing it doesn't mean I always love it, though. I'd say there's not as many challenging days, but I'd say there's way more challenging moments that I don't allow and I don't label each day to create guilt and to use it as a stick to hit myself with. I just almost allow it to happen and then deal with it and process it in my own way.
Mindset, I think, such an amazing thing, and I think it's so undervalued. I think it's great that it's becoming more aware to people, but certainly from our perspective, when we're coaching people to run more financially successful, I was going to say businesses, but lives as well. Actually, the very first point of what we look at is mindset, to go, how much are you getting in your own way? Why specifically mindset for you? Was it that original intrigue? Was there something that triggered you to go down that particular route?
I mean, when I first started, I went very much down the PT side of things, you know, knowing that exercise, eating healthily, drinking water, getting outside, listening to podcasts is ultimately the byproduct of that is going to be an improved mindset, of course. So it was more leading with that than it was anything else. But I realized that everything begins with the mind, because why are they even going to start that fitness journey if they're not in the right headspace? So again, fascinated, what's the story? Because the story a lot of people tell themselves is, I've tried everything to lose weight. For example, you're like, the problem with language, you know, especially when you're in NLP, is that it's so specific and you just use the words back to them. Louis Theroux is the best at this, by the way. He does it. He just repeats the exact same words back to the interviewee. He did it with Stormzy and it was hilarious. He said, "Oh, I was something like a bad man," and "Oh, what made you become a bad man then?" You know, sounds ridiculous, but it's the actual words he used. So when you use the words back to people, when you're not in rapport with them, you can sound like a pedantic arsehole. So, but if you do it playfully, always, and then like, you know, "Oh, I've always doubted myself, always," and like, yeah, Always? Well, yeah, always. Since you were what? 1, 2? Well, no. Okay, but can I just highlight that you did say always? Well, I don't mean always. Okay, well, that's fine, but when do you mean then? When did this behavior begin? So when it's I've tried everything to lose weight, and you say, okay, well, what is it? Can you name everything that you've tried? Well, I've tried a million things. Okay, so it's not everything, it's now a million things. Well, not a million. Okay, well, how many things? 5? Right. Well, no, you've probably done the same thing over and over and expected a different outcome. So it's not that you've tried everything to lose weight, it's that you've tried every method that you know that doesn't work, and you've done it over and over again, expecting a different outcome. So I'd like to offer you a different perspective, and could we try this way instead? And straight away it just disarms the person, and they're like, oh yeah, sounds reasonable. Let's look at that then. So it was a lot more initially focused around that, but I've quickly realized that everything begins with that. So if you can start to understand that, then great. Because what a lot of mistakes I see with personal trainers and things like that is, and even business coaches or what have you, is they put their view of the world onto you straight away, and they'll just go, "Why didn't you do it?" Well, because or you just need to do the reps. You just need to do that, and then you'll get fitter. Not, oh, what made you not do it last week? Or or I'm just not worth the change. I'm so stupid. Like I'm never going to see results. Oh, how have you come to that conclusion? You don't need to be a skilled counselor to be a good personal trainer, but you do have to be a good person to be a good personal trainer. Just by berating them and shouting at them to do burpees until they throw up isn't going to get you a good result. So I had to change my approach a little bit. And I was like, I need to be a bit more compassionate and understanding and collaborative, rather than getting people to send me photos of the food and recording the workouts. I want to ask them, how's their week been? What are they grateful for? What have some wins been? What have been some harsh lessons that they've learned about themselves that week? And you find out so much more about the individual when you ask what and how, as opposed to asking why, because why is quite an accusatory question. So that just fascinated me the more I went into it. So I think it's more grown into the mindset, but there's a variety of things that I help people with: relationships, their own business, their own mindset, their weight loss, whatever. Not because I have the answer to everything and I'm an expert in everything, because I'm not, but I do ask good questions, and then I hold the space for them without judgment, without fixing them, and then ask another question, and then I can challenge their thoughts, and that's where the skill comes in. So yeah, I'm just fascinated by the human mind, and why people do what they do and how we can change it.
Adam, I love the fact, right? I think you hinted to this earlier, right? But I love the fact that actually you bring mindset to it through experience, through challenges, through difficulties. I think you mentioned earlier depression. I think I can't remember how you labeled it, overweight or obesity, and you lost some weight. Alcohol, I think you mentioned. Tell me a bit about those and those experiences and how they help in terms of you being able to relate and help and coach others experiencing those issues and also other issues, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think
maybe challenges. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh. Like,
that's all right. It's all true, mate. I mean, I'm only 34, and sometimes some of the challenges you get back are, when I used to call myself a life coach, I think people misconstrue what that actually is. Because it's not me telling you to wake up at 5 a.m. and drink kale smoothies and chant affirmations in a nice cold shower while reading a self-help book. That's not what a good life coach does. So I changed the phrasing to mindset coach or high performance coach or whatever, because, to some people, again, oh, you've not lived a life, you're 34. Okay, so what's the age then? What appropriate age can you call yourself a life coach? Because I know some people that have lived a better life at 25 and some people that have lived to 60. So it's really down to the experiences that you go through. And one of the worst by far was about nearly 5 years ago. So I was managing a large hospitality venue, working silly hours, became extremely stressed, almost like insomnia. I wasn't sleeping because I was panicking about the day that had just been. I was worried about what's to come the next day. We were breaking all kinds of sales records, which was good, but I didn't feel successful at all. My habits were terrible. I was just eating anything I could just to survive for the day, drinking 3 or 4 cans of Red Bull, having a few shots throughout the shift to, air quote, liven me up, whatever that means, or give me more energy, ironically, even though alcohol sedates you, but here we are. Same with Red Bull, obviously brings you up, bring you down. I was surviving off the beige diet of sandwiches and chips and burgers and pizzas and kebabs and you name it, drinking too much alcohol, smoking, but really I only smoked because I could get outside for 5 minutes of fresh air. Again, the irony, the fresh air of the smoke, right? So I was just on this negative spiral. I wasn't showing up in my relationship because I was working so much and I was so tired. On my days off, or rare days off, I used to just want to play FIFA because I was like, I don't want to speak to anyone at this stage. I got so done with the stress of managing a large venue, from the pressure from head office, the pressure from the team underneath you, pressure from customers, deposits, pre-orders. Oh, it was horrendous. So I was like, I don't want to talk to anyone, including my partner, and I neglected her in a big way. So it doesn't take a genius to work out this wasn't going very well. And it got to around Christmas, and I remember breaking down in tears in front of my area manager at the time. We didn't really get on, so I was even more mortified that I'd shown this vulnerability to him. And then my partner and I had a huge argument. She went to go stay with a few friends, came back, ended the 4-year relationship in about 2 minutes. It was literally like someone had stabbed me. I had a full-on panic attack because I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting it to come back. We were messaging throughout the week. We were going to talk about it on Sunday. Okay. Then it was boom, done. And I was like, oh my God. I've never truly felt like pain like that so instantly. It was horrific. And we'd planned on everything, the marriage, kids, you name it. We talked about all that kind of stuff. So that was very difficult. And then I got signed off by a doctor, answered a few questions. Are you low mood? Of course. Are you tired? Of course. Are you stressed? Of course. Do you have any joy in anything at the moment? No. My relationship's just ended. I've just been signed off from work. You're depressed? I was like, oh no, I'm depressed. Shit. So then you start carrying around like a label. I'm depressed. So how am I going to hold myself? Well, like this, and I'm going to talk really slowly, and well, I am depressed. So it was that kind of diagnosis. It was very damaging. And then that week, my auntie died. The week after, another family member died. So I was like, shit, I need to get back to work. Rushed back to work way too quick. Went back in literally the first week of February, and I shouldn't have gone back in. I was nowhere near ready to go back. And they could see that it was harming me in different ways. I wasn't performing right. Long story short, I lost that job. So now I'm jobless. 2 family members passed away. Relationships ended. I'm 30. In my mind, I should have the kids, the house, the white picket fence, the Labrador, like everyone tells you should. And so I've never felt lower at this point. And then another family member died, and I was like, holy shit, what do I do now? Started to turn a corner, got a new job in my, at the time, dream job. Is my favorite bar to go into, and they offered me the position of general manager. I was thrilled, did that, but all the highs were all the lows. Getting in at 6 a.m, one night stands, drugs, booze, you name it. But it was horrible. Like, I said this on a podcast before, and he said, oh, my heart bleeds for you, all these one night stands. I said, no, mate, you're missing the point. It was like, it's horrendous, it's empty, it's vapid, it's so I've never had a lower opinion of myself than when I was doing that.
Hey there. Really sorry for interrupting, but I really wanted to let you know about some amazing bonus content we have available for you. You see, not only do we record behind the scenes, but also we go deeper into some of the key topics that come up during the conversation. Now, you can find out more about this and access all of it free of charge over on Facebook. Just search for the Leaky Bucket Podcast Community.
And I felt awful. And then I started going to therapy. I thought I need to start feeling better. But the venue I was managing, it was almost like welcomed that you drink with your guests. So I was consuming anywhere between half to a full bottle of whiskey, plus a few beers just while working. A full bottle of whiskey and beers while working. I mean, that was just normal. That was, yes, you were intoxicated, but you could function. And this was just on a Saturday. This wasn't every night, but it was, I'd drink on the other nights too. So that all led to terrible decisions as well. And then it got to about September, and I got a phone call one day off my best friend. He just said that his dad had passed away in his sleep. And I remember feeling instant grief. I just burst into tears straight away. I was like, oh my God, this is horrendous. He's 51, 52-year-old, really fit and healthy, funniest guy you'll meet, all the rest of it. And I went to the wake and I just felt horrendous. And I felt so bad that I thought people were looking at me. That's how, poor my mental health was. And I felt like really self-conscious, like really anxious, almost again panicking. Went to the wake and drank about 10 pints. But because I was drinking so much, nobody had any idea that it was even touching the sides. And I thought, this is it. I'm just going to do it. I've lost too many people this year. My life's a mess. I'm not deserving. No one wants to be with me. So I thought, I'm just going to end my life. How do I do that? And I've already Googled this a few weeks previous to have had these thoughts before. And then now it's just compounded. I'm intoxicated, but not, out of control. And I went down to see mum and dad because they lived 5 minutes away from the wake. And that's where my car was parked. And told them I loved them. They had no idea. Said, oh, see you in a couple of days. And that was it. I didn't want to hurt anybody else. So I drove on some quieter roads and then put up the speed, picked the bridge or the post or the barricade that I could hit at high speed. Got up to 100 miles an hour. And then my phone started ringing and it came up on the dashboard. It just said mum. And straight away it was like this almost like overwhelming feeling like, oh my God, what am I doing? And then as soon as I heard a voice, it's like, oh, Adam, you all right? I was like, yeah. She's like, what are you doing? I was like, she's like, you've left your wallet at home. Do you want me to drop it off for you? And as soon as she said that, I was just like this bang, this moment where I was like, holy shit, what am I doing? What am I doing? Like the car was just going crazy, obviously, and no one was hurt, nothing was damaged, and pulled over into a lay-by and just sobbed. I don't know how long for. It felt like hours. My shirt was just drenched, and I knew at that moment that I had to change. Something drastically had to change. So when I do coach people and I do help them, I always let them know a rough element of my story, just so they understand that there is that true compassion there and empathy and knowledge of, while it's not your go through, I've been through my own go through, and this is how I turned it around. And it doesn't mean that every single point that I make is going to be that you're going to do it too, but it will be helpful. And I think that if you apply most of it, you'll see a difference.
Sounds like a tough period of your life, but no doubt it shaped you massively. Taught you maybe to be a resilient character. How do you then? I think there's a lot of people maybe who can look at it and just go, "Come on, that can't be right, Adam." Just literally a phone call from your mum, pops up on the desk. You've only just seen her. How can a breakthrough happen like that? But I think that's the reality. Like a breakthrough is literally that. Yeah, a breakthrough is a moment. It doesn't take huge amounts of anything. It doesn't take necessarily a lot of effort at that moment. Just something has to click for you at that moment in time. What did you now go and do off the back of it to make sure that that breakthrough wasn't just lost? What did you now go and do? What actions did you go and take?
Yeah, I mean, just, going back slightly, the breakthroughs can happen at any moment, right? This might be when you land that big deal and you land the big deal and it makes you feel truly fulfilled. It might be that the big deal lands and you feel utterly miserable. That might be a breakthrough. It might be when you hear your baby crying for the first time. That's the breakthrough and your whole life changes. It might be that, one example of a guy that I know tried to hang himself and the rope snapped. He's like, what the fuck am I doing? What am I doing? And that was it. And he was not cured, but he went, what have I just tried here? It's almost like a second chance. And it wasn't like the next day I had it all figured out and I was, again, 5 a.m. club. This was a few years, and it's still an ongoing process now, 5 years later, because I honestly believe that there's never a period where you'll stop growing or learning. And if you do, then, again, old cliche, but you've lost the game. So I started looking at what I could get some easy wins. And having previously been a personal trainer, obviously I knew how to eat healthily and I knew how to exercise, and I knew that drinking water was good for me. So I was like, I'm just going to go to real basics here. So I didn't know anything about, obviously I know the Tony Robbins of the world and what have you, but I've never really read that many books because of my dyspraxia. I wasn't really that aware. I knew audiobooks existed, but there were more CDs at the time, when I was back in the day. And I never even thought about audiobooks in the present day. I was like, I wonder if there's something around how to stop feeling like crap. So I thought Tony Robbins must have a book. So I started listening to that, Unleash the Power Within, and it's, one of his, which is when he's at an actual seminar, his audio book, and he's talking about certain things, so you can hear him interacting with the crowd, and I found that really interesting. I was like, well, if I, start going out for walks, did a bit of this, bit of up and down over a couple of years, some inconsistencies. I did sober October, I did dry January, and all the rest of it. And I thought, right, cool. Weight fluctuated enormously. But then when the lockdown hit, I was like, now is the time. This is the time to really sort myself out. So again, started eating cleaner, started ordering like muscle food, prep meals, started drinking 3 liters of water, started going out for 10,000 step walks, because again, what else could you do? While I was on the walk, I'd be listening to an audiobook. So I'm consuming positive content as I'm doing that, which is known as habit pairing. So that was really helpful, doing 2 good things at once. Then we're very fortunate at the time where we were staying, had a little bit of a gym. So we're doing some form of workout every day as well, releasing all the positive endorphins. Obviously, knock-on effect of that is you eat better. When you eat better, you sleep better. When you sleep better, you've got more energy to do more exercise. So the compound effect was just going into overdrive in a really positive way. I was still catching up with friends via Zoom. I was still doing the family quizzes. I was still being present with my partner and trying to get as much stimulation as I could. But then I just focused on something different. A lot of people focus on the problem, and the problem might be overweight. If you're focusing on just being overweight your whole life, you're going to continue to be overweight probably because you feel like that's the story. I said, this is not my story. This does not need to be who I am. This doesn't have to be what defines me. So the simple steps I say to people are, every morning, write down 3 things that you're grateful for. It doesn't have to be the same thing. It could be a cup of coffee. It could be the fact that you can read and write. It could be your health. Because saying you're grateful for your family, albeit true, can get a bit monotonous and boring after day 5 and lose all meaning. Get outside every day, regardless of the weather. I know it's bleak in November and it's cold and it's wet and it's dark. Get a big jacket on, get your hair on, whatever. Get outside 20 minutes, 2 20-minute walks a day. Even if you've got kids, it's still manageable to do 2 20-minute walks. And then, drink as much water, eat healthily, and consume the right content. But one of the main things is surround yourself with people that are going to support you. Because what a lot of people do, especially, I always just give this example because it's easy around weight loss, but you'll have all sorts of interference. Like, oh, don't lose too much weight, don't get too skinny. And these comments just aren't helpful. So make sure you surround yourself with like-minded individuals. But then also, I am a huge advocate, not just because I am a coach, but because I've got my own coaches, of investing in yourself. So many people see it as a cost. It's not a cost, it's an investment. And people say, well, what's the ROI? Oh, I don't know. Better mental health, live longer, live happier, live freer, and I've got a personal trainer, and I've also got a mindset coach for that reason, to look at my blind spots and to give me a bit of a nudge, or even just for accountability sometimes. Did you meditate when you said you were going to? Yeah. Okay. You feel better for it? Yeah. Great. And that's all it needs to be. So everyone will have their own path and their own struggles. And I'm not suggesting for a second, by the way, that if you've experienced trauma or PTSD or, you know, another suicidal moment and you're severely depressed, that just drinking water and getting outside is going to heal everything, because it's not. And I want to make that very clear. But this is what helped me initially, because it doesn't make anything worse. That's the big difference.
Adam, we've been some dark and some challenging times. What about then as you know, successes? You roll in, you start to then build this business through lockdown, when, you know, it's very easy just to take furlough, yeah, and be paid and sit at home. Tell me about the successes of sort of having that startup and bringing it to the point of where it's at today.
Yeah, so we've had an incredible coming up to 2 years really. The first 6 months we were just trying to find our way, you know. Like I said, we instantly monetized. So we started in January and we got our first client on the 21st, and we got 15 out of 15 clients on strategy calls. The method that we used was we hosted 3 masterminds for 90 minutes. We gave loads of value in that time around internal, physical and mental health. And then we had about 50, 60 people attend the first one. Second one was like 40, third one was 30. So we put this strategy call link, book if you're more interested in working with us one-to-one. And a lot of this was my previous contacts from some of old coaching clients, some from old colleagues, Facebook friends, Instagram followers, whatever. And we landed 15 out of 15. But our product was only about 500 quid for a 6-week health transformational program. And you got 2 coaching sessions with each coach plus weekly group coaching. So there was this community built instantly, which was amazing. But our business coach said, you're charging too little. You're not that good at sales. So I was like, okay. So it took us a while to understand that. And I think about 4 months later, we upped it to the grand total of £750. And then we got a different business coach and we just doubled it again. And then we just kept doing that. So, you know, our 90-day product now is near £4,000, which is like a complete health reset. And we're looking at doing an even bigger offering for like Project 180 or Project 360, where it's a 6-month project and a 12-month project to completely transform your entire health through blood tests, through NLP transformational days, through healthy nutritional plans, group coaching, mentorship, etc. But we've worked with Diageo, we've worked with the Atlantis Hotel in Dubai, we've helped some celebrities, some ex-footballers. We're looking at talks with some professional football clubs at the moment around managing their mindset, overcoming adversity, building more resilience, going alcohol-free is something we're extremely passionate about. And we've served over, 300 or 400 one-to-one clients, plus 4 or 5 other corporate businesses. We've got 3 or 4 different corporate clients on retainer each month now that we deal with. And we've got the business model to a sense where we're not in it. We don't have to work 90 hours a week. We're working very much like 9 till 7, Monday to Friday, take weekends off. So, it's been a hard slog. And, there are way more challenging days than there are wins, let me tell you. But the wins, it's all been worth it. And the challenges are all worth it because it has got us to this point. And, year 1 was okay financially, but by the year end, we have nearly tripled our income this year. And one of the biggest shifts has been going onto LinkedIn and engaging with our ideal client on there and dealing with CEOs, dealing with burnout high performers, and dealing with people that actually want to change. Because I'm sure you're the same. You get a lot of, I don't like using the phrase tire kickers. I think it's quite disrespectful because people might just not be ready. Not that they're there to actively waste your time, but there's a lot of people that just aren't ready. And it is frustrating because they look like they're ready and they sound like they're ready, but for whatever reason, they don't buy. And it's only really frustrating. Yes, money's important. It's a business, but I see it as a life that I could have impacted that I no longer can, in a sense, or maybe not right now. So that's what hurts more, to be honest, because I can see what pain they're in, but they won't allow themselves to do the work, or sometimes they're just not willing to do the work. And that's what I found hardest at the first.
Yeah, definitely can relate. We're not the sort of typical firm of accountants we run. It tends to be more, we're helping business owners who aren't achieving financially what they would like to achieve. But yeah, there needs to be that breakthrough moment for themselves, that they realize that they have this problem and they want to be helped. And yeah, we introduced assessments and things that we do early on in the conversations, just to go, look, we know we've got the tools and everything, but actually, regardless of how great we are at doing what we do, if you're not ready to be helped, it's not going to work. And yeah, we're not magicians. We're not going to perform, some kind of magic process. You have to want this, and you have to be ready to do the hard work that's required. And yeah, I think it does become that little bit of a selection process. Sounds wrong, but it is. It's a
qualifying.
Actually, yeah, it's you have to be ready and you have to work. And yeah, actually, if you're not ready, it's going to be painful for everybody involved.
That's it. And we say that because we have to protect our own reputation. Because if they've signed up to a program, and you know that they're cash rich, time poor, but they've got no sign of wanting to change, they keep cancelling appointments and blah blah blah, then actually if they're talking to their other successful friends, I've started this program, then they don't do the work, and you get blamed for the work that they didn't do, it damages your reputation. So it's not for some companies go, make them sell to you and all that kind of stuff, and it's gets quite manipulative and whatever, but there has to be an element of understanding of expectation of, this is what we expect from our clients, and if that isn't matched, then we probably aren't right for you. Because the first thing we say on sales calls is, why are we on this call? They tell you, well, you know that you could just get a pure gym membership for £20 a month and go to therapy for £50 a month. Yeah, tried that, but we always get that in because some people go, oh yeah, it's a good idea actually. Oh, no worries, take care, see you later. Because they were never going to buy your high ticket product when they're looking for the next cheaper option. So to disqualify them in a respectful way and make them just see themselves that maybe it's not right, as opposed to us rejecting them. When you're dealing with mental health and stuff like that in particular, they might already feel rejected. So if you exacerbate that by rejecting them again, that's going to be quite challenging.
Yeah, I think you led to it earlier, actually. I think coaching often is more about asking great questions so the person being coached realizes the answers for themselves, because then they feel empowered to make the decisions and get the results. Whereas human nature, if you go and tell somebody you must do this, you're just going to get people being resilient and fighting against it, and you're not going to get progress. And I think sometimes you just need to give people those other tools and let them work it out for themselves. And actually the answer for them, like you say, might be a pure gym membership and a bit of counselling, and that's it. Away they go, and you've done your bit. And it's impossible for you to help everybody everywhere. But actually you've given this little bit of hope and direction to somebody who maybe wasn't ready for what you guys do.
That's it. I'd far rather that than be 4 weeks in, they regret it, and then we don't like working with them, and then you go down that path as well. So then it might be that the dream client cycle might be that you've left it on good terms and you come back in 6 months when they are ready, and that's all right as well.
Yeah. Adam, as you know, right, it's the Leaky Bucket podcast, and the point is that actually we're all aiming and sort of looking for growth, but actually along the way there are leaks that appear within the bucket, and actually sometimes it takes an effort to stand back and look at those leaks and how you're going to repair them, patch them, and make them better. You mentioned a few coaches and things that you've got by your sides. You've got sort of influential people around you. Is that the only thing that you do in order to make sure that you're spotting those potential holes and leaks?
A lot of it is, but my business partner and I hold each other accountable quite a lot. We try not to rescue each other when one's having a difficult day. Like, oh, don't worry, mate, you're amazing. You can get through this. We ask more questions. Like, what's making you feel like this? So we do tend to, but equally we'll caveat it. Like, listen, mate, I don't want to coach you, but I do want to understand your problem a little bit deeper. Do you mind if I ask you some more questions? Yeah, okay. Because most relationships just don't have that level of communication. Like, oh, mate, don't worry about it. Or we'll get another client. It'll be fine. That's not helpful. So instead it's, do I have your permission to be honest? Or can I ask you some more questions about this? Such a simple reframe. So my business partner holds me accountable. My actual partner holds me accountable too, and family do. So I'll not frequently, but occasionally ask them, how have I been showing up this week? Or how am I showing up for you right now? Is there anything more that I can do? Because I'll feed back the other way. And it'll be more of a collaborative effort. This isn't a sit down meeting with my partner and let's write down goals. This is a reflection piece because, again, it's a relationship. So it needs work in the same way that your business needs work and needs refinement and reflection. So we use a method. Well, I live by this a lot, which is the 3 R's, which is reflect, refine, repeat. So reflect on the last week. How was it? It was pretty good. However, we could improve it by doing this. And I'm going to repeat that until we see another flaw, and then I can pick that out. So I've got the mindset coach to, yes, keep me accountable, but to also correct me if I'm using disparaging language towards myself or beating myself up from time to time, because we're people and we do that. And then, yeah, the PT side of it is just there to give me a bit of a kick up the backside in the gym. So, yeah, I think that I journal a lot as well. So I've got my diary next to me that I've used. This one, it's really good. So I can just write down any thoughts, feelings, whatever. This is a really good tip as well for anyone that wants to retain their ideas or whatever. Start a WhatsApp chat with a friend and then kick them out, and then just label it thoughts and ideas. So I've just got pages of my own thoughts and ideas or feelings that I share. So it might be I'm really angry and I don't want to bother my partner with this problem. So I'll just voice note myself, which sounds a bit ridiculous, but it helps me vent and it helps me get it off my chest without any rebuttal, without anyone saying anything. And then I've got it off my chest, because there's an old expression that once you're in your head, you're dead. And you don't want to bottle up those emotions any more than you have to. So if I can verbalize to myself how I'm feeling, it's dealt with, and I just get on with the rest of my day. So yeah, I do find that helpful as well.
Brilliant. What do you think your biggest lesson you've learned in business is, and what's also your best advice so others don't make that same mistake?
Don't take it personally. If you don't get a client that lands, don't take it personally. If someone decides that they don't want to work with you anymore, okay, yeah, there might be something you need to work on, but it doesn't mean it defines your whole character. Doesn't mean that you go back to that vulnerability of being a 6-year-old in school getting yelled at by the teacher. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest ones, or a kind of a different way of wording it would be learn how to regulate your emotions. So by all means, celebrate the wins. However, you need to come back down from cloud 9 and then just action that. So I'd say probably, yeah, learn how to regulate your emotions is probably the best one, because it is going to be a roller coaster.
Considering sort of the journey and everything that you've been on, the roller coaster, I suppose, that you've been on, actually, would you say that actually you're now living a happy life?
Yeah, I would say so. I think the one phrase that changed everything for me was deal with the reality of the situation, whether that's being overweight, your partner's just left you, you're miserable in your business. Just deal with the reality of it, but don't make it worse than it is. Just deal with it for what it is. And that's something that, again, really helps me day to day. So I would say generally I live a pretty I'd say content life. I'd say contented. I know what you're saying, by the way, by happy, and I'm not nitpicking your question, but obviously it is an emotion that a lot of us put a lot of our hopes and dreams on. I just want to be happy. We'll go watch a dog video then. Mission solved, mission accomplished. I think what people are really saying is, not to sound like a pedantic arsehole, is just I want to be content. I want to have a peaceful life, or I want to have a pleasant life. And that's what I aim for. There is a lot of messy grey area, and yes, there are challenges, but if I can come back to a pleasant state, then that's what I'm striving for every day, to make my life more pleasant.
Great. So good to hear as well. Adam, it's been really good actually, and you've taken us some really dark and challenging areas. So thank you so much for sharing those. I think it'll be great. There'll be bound to be somebody listening somewhere who's possibly experiencing something that they can relate to, and they can hopefully take that as a bit of a learning point and maybe their own breakthrough moment, and start to make some angles in the right direction for themselves. So yeah, thank you for sharing so much. And I think it's wonderful actually how you're not just one of those people being a life coach, mindset coach, whoever, who just has had it easy and then go, oh, you can get what I've got. Most people, the reality is that life's hard and life's a challenge, usually probably because we're contributing ourselves and getting in our own way. And I think that very fact that you've allowed that to go in the wrong, or the direction you didn't want it to necessarily go in, and then actually steered that to a direction that you're now in control of. And I think you're very clear to go, you're not cured. Like, you still have challenges, you still have dark days, you still have problems you have to overcome. But actually, overall, you're moving in the right direction. So I think, yeah, it's been really, really good. Where can people find out more about you, what you do, and maybe if they want some more support and guidance?
Oh, so the best place at the moment is probably on LinkedIn, to be fair. I mean, I know typing in Adam Smith in the search bar of any platform is not ideal because there's a million of me. But yeah, LinkedIn, if you type in A Game Consultancy, then that'll naturally lead you towards me. Our website's currently under construction, so it's not looking its best right now, but A Game Consultancy is the website. And on TikTok, I started posting about 6 to 8 weeks ago, which is Adam Smith _mindset coach. So those are the three sort of areas that I would say is best to track me down. So I'm not really that prevalent on Instagram or Facebook anymore.
Okay, fantastic. We'll have all of those links anyway within the show notes. So yeah, if save people searching through lots of Adam Smiths within LinkedIn or whatever, then yeah, we'll make sure that those are all available. Awesome. Adam, before you go, we have a bit of tradition here that we throw in a bit of a quirky question at the end, right? Which is, if you were going to launch a new business tomorrow that's completely unrelated to what you currently do, what would it be and why?
Okay, so I would buy a plot of land, and I would have like a top of the range like dog sanctuary. So it would be like split into different temperaments of the dogs, get 5 or 6 people working there. You can leave your dog there for 4 hours or 8 hours, depending on your needs, or you can leave them there for a week if needed, if you're going on holiday. So you'd make sure that they're cared for, that their needs are met, that you've got like the best kind of food available, the best toys available, the best areas for them to run around and be free, but also to be in a nice sort of protective sort of space where they're looked after. It's something that I'm actually looking to do, you know, years down the line, essentially, of like a bit of a retirement kind of plan, I think. But yeah, I know that there are kennels and what have you, but making it really quite unique, quirky and fun, I think that would be, you know, at the same time, whilst also knowing that so I've got 2 dogs, so making sure they're well looked after as opposed to just chucked away in a cage. Yeah, we're going above and beyond. That's what I'd like to do.
Brilliant. Love it. Not what I was expecting as an answer, but then it very rarely is. But really, really. Adam, thank you again for being on the show, and thank you again for being so open and honest.
Yeah, thanks for having me, mate.
Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Leaky Bucket podcast. I'd love it if you could help spread the message by clicking subscribe and leaving a review. Also, please do reach out to me on LinkedIn and let me know your thoughts on this episode. You can also find more info and links in the show notes below. See you next time. Coming next week on the Leaky Bucket podcast.
I think the Achilles heel of sales is this just overly strong focus on quota attainment. And look, I get it. Salespeople need to be measured in some way. We all in the business world need to be measured in some way. Really talented salespeople either leave because of the pressures regarding quotas and not attaining it, or being pushed out or even, fired because of not attaining a quota. And what I've seen is that you could be the greatest salesperson in the world, but if the market isn't there, or the product or service doesn't measure up, you're not going to be successful. So, I think what I tell people in Sell Like a Spy is, as part of the conviction of how important salesmanship is, that unless your product or service is totally differentiated from the competition, and or you have a price point that blows the competition out of the water, it's salesmanship that's going to be such a critical part of it.